Over the past decade, North Korea has emerged as one of the most isolated nations in the world. As a result of sanctions, it has been virtually cut off from the outside world, with no access to the global banking system or the World Wide Web. Its political strategy, focused on strengthening its nuclear arsenal, continues to impact the country's economic development. The lack of significant oil and gas reserves, along with outdated equipment in most industries, places the country in a challenging position. Nevertheless, despite these hardships, North Korea continues to play a significant role on the world stage. It remains a pariah state, frozen in its development and constrained by its neighbors. The country enforces strict rules of behavior and dress, where fashionable trends hold no sway. All are mandated to adhere to the national communist ideology, which propagates revolutionary ideas and acknowledges the absolute authority of the North Korean leader. Examining the semantics of the word Jushe, where Ju signifies master and She denotes body, one can understand its meaning as asserting that an individual is the master of both oneself and the surrounding world. However, upon closer examination of North Korean culture, it becomes evident that it dictates how people should live. Here lies the fundamental difference between North and South Korea. Since the 6th century, Korea operated as a unified state, yet a series of events in the mid-20th century led to its division into two territories. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea in the north, oriented towards a socialist development model, and the Republic of Korea in the south, a democratic state based on market economy principles. Today, these two states exist in different political, economic, and cultural conditions, viewing each other as occupiers of their historical territory. It is remarkable but unfortunate that two countries bound by shared history, language, and ethnicity are now divided by irreconcilable enmity, and the prospect of their reunification seems unlikely. The lives of Koreans who have chosen the path of a planned economy are carefully shielded from prying eyes. Even less information is available about the economic development of North Korea, as the government refuses to release data to the public. However, some information does trickle out into the global community. Nevertheless, it is astounding that the animosity between former brethren surpasses antipathy towards occupying forces. Until the end of the 19th century, Korea remained in a vassal dependency on China, paying tribute and seeking approval from the Chinese emperor. This situation changed after the Sino-Japanese War of 1894 to 1895, when China lost its influence over Korea. By the late 19th century, Korea was an absolute monarchy of feudal type with limited elements of capitalist economy. The state was closed off from the outside world, but its geographical location drew Japan's attention as Japan sought to expand its influence onto the continent. In 1910, a treaty of annexation was signed, and Japan began exerting economic and cultural influence over Korea. As a result, Korea became a Japanese colony, though for many Koreans, Japan symbolized progressive civilization, albeit concurrently, there was a growing anti-Japanese movement. After the October Revolution in Russia in 1917, the socialist state became interested in spreading its ideas in Asia. Socialist ideals quickly gained popularity in Korea. Following Japan's defeat in World War II in 1945, Koreans expected the declaration of national independence, but their country was liberated by Soviet and American forces, not by the efforts of their own people. After the formal liberation of Korea from colonial rule, Koreans failed to retain real power in their hands. The political future of the country was determined by the USSR and the USA. In August 1945, it was decided to divide the military zones of responsibility on the Korean Peninsula along the 38th parallel. The U.S. State Department insisted that all territory south of the 38th parallel, including the capital Seoul, fell under American influence. Stalin did not object, and this marked the beginning of a long division of the country. By the early 1950s, North Korean leader Kim Il-sung began actively promoting the idea of militarily seizing South Korea to unify the country, leading to the Korean War, the bloodiest conflict in the history of the Korean people. Although it officially had a local character, it involved the interests of the great powers of world politics, the USSR and the USA, both seeking to establish their authority over Korea. Internal attempts by Korean leaders to reunify the country were unsuccessful and only deepened the rift between the two states. Upon division, North Korea inherited a territory of 120,000 square kilometers, while South Korea had 100,000 square kilometers. However, labor resources were mainly concentrated in the south, and the population there exceeded that of the north by twice since the 1950s. South Korea managed to transform from a poor agrarian country into a high-tech state with a developed economy within 2 generations, while North Korea, isolated from the world, remained one of the poorest countries. Life in North Korea, while not devoid of interest and diversity, leaves much to be desired. The majority of its citizens work in heavy and light industries, the service sector and agriculture, but priority in the economy is given to the development of the military-industrial complex. This has led to excessive militarization, one of the main reasons for the country's economic backwardness. In times of crisis and food shortages, ordinary citizens are compelled to sacrifice part of their rice for the needs of the military and the party. As a result, the country faces a catastrophic shortage of food and other resources. Currently, about 40% of the population are in need of humanitarian aid. The problem of acute protein deficiency becomes a significant issue for the population of North Korea. The country resorts to artificial meat made from processed soy. Studies have shown that North Korean preschoolers are on average 13 cm shorter and 7 kg lighter than their South Korean counterparts. In the high-rise apartment buildings of North Korea, hot water is often unavailable, and elevators only operate during peak hours. However, apartments are not sold but distributed for free by the authorities. In contrast, in the South, an average resident needs to save for 14 years to acquire their own home, and acquiring a car for North Koreans is nearly impossible. Instead, bicycles serve as the primary means of individual transportation, despite only 3% of the roads in the country being paved. North Korea is virtually devoid of Wi-Fi, with computers lacking even USB ports for flash drives. South Korean dramas and any connections with representatives of South Korea are considered crimes. According to media reports, North Korea even employs anti-aircraft guns for execution, though this information has not been officially confirmed. If little information about North Korea reaches the outside world, then its residents know even less about the outside world. Those who can afford computers or other gadgets gain access to the limited internal internet system called Kwangmyong, containing only a few thousand selected websites. Much of the country must do without internet and even electricity. Electricity consumption in North Korea is 50 times lower than in the South. The question of how much time and effort will be required for the reunification of the 2 countries remains open. According to some expert estimates, the costs of equalizing the standard of living in a unified state could reach $1 trillion, and the longer time passes, the greater the political, economic, and cultural divide increases. The current leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, strives to maintain a positive image amidst challenging circumstances. Despite lacking complete technical and industrial self-sufficiency, the country continues to engage in external trade despite its isolation. Over the past 2 years, external trade volume has decreased by 17% to $713 million USD. North Korea's main trading partners include China, South Korea, Russia, and Singapore. However, relations with partner countries are going through a difficult period. After launching a ballistic missile and conducting hydrogen bomb tests in 2017, the international community imposed 5 sets of sanctions against North Korea. As a result, exports of oil, iron, steel, and mining equipment are prohibited, as well as imports of food, timber, ships, textiles, and other goods. These imposed restrictions have significantly impacted the country's economy. Nevertheless, North Korea asserts that it has no intention of giving up its nuclear weapons. Instead, the country seeks to circumvent sanction restrictions by falsifying cargo receipt documents and involving government-affiliated trading networks in illegal trade. North Korea's economy has also been affected by the coronavirus epidemic. Border closures led to an 81% decrease in trade with China. The volume of Chinese exports to North Korea has decreased to $500 million, and Russia has also reduced its trade volume with North Korea. North Korean minerals are not in demand in the Russian market, so the majority of exports to Russia consist of chemical and machinery products. North Korea also trades with third-world countries, exporting steel, iron ore, coal, seafood, electronics, household chemicals, and textiles. In countries such as Somalia, Ethiopia, and Eritrea, North Korea's military-industrial complex, based on Russian developments, is in demand. North Korea supplies various types of weapons, ammunition, and military equipment. However, even in a country where the principle of equality is fundamental, there is significant inequality. While ordinary citizens struggle for survival, consuming seaweed, the wives of state leaders enjoy the luxury of clothing. It appears that North Korea stands at the closed door to a new world. North Koreans have long been intimidated by this hostile world and have believed in the necessity of isolation. However, in the near future, it may be necessary to slightly open the door to a new reality. the pace of growth and development is accelerating, and even the conservative government of North Korea recognizes the need for change. Today, North Korea stands on the brink of major changes, but what they will be remains unknown. On the one hand, the authorities continue to build an impregnable state isolated from external influences. On the other hand, there is increasing talk about the well-being of the people, not just military victory, and rhetoric and attitudes towards the world are changing. It seems that the North Korean people are already awaiting these changes. Thank you, dear friends, for joining me on this exciting journey through history. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to not miss new videos about exciting events and facts from the past. Also, leave your comments under this video. I am always happy to hear your thoughts, suggestions, and requests for topics for future videos. Until next time on the channel.